starting your week the right way. Come into the FPL Green Room with me, Gianni Battici, and her, Holly Shams.
Coming up in today's show, we're going to react to all the action from Game Week 11, which feels like a long time ago now with my numbers game and Gianni's eye test report. But we've also been scouting all of the action from over the international break, and we're heading into the congestive festive schedule. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks ahead. I always feel like it's such an important stage of the season, getting through December. And it does always feel a little bit like getting through, although the volume of football that we've got on offer is great. Just a quick reminder that we are now in video form on our YouTube channel at FPL Green Room. And we've reached 500 subs on there as well. So thanks everyone for the support. Keep hitting that subscribe button, guys.
Thank you all for the support, Holly. We're clearly well out of practice, like both of us. Like international break has meant we've had a bit of a detox, but both of us, we're recording this on the Monday, are now like, oh, it's only a week to go. We're back in FPL mode, so I'm buzzing for that because there's been 3 international breaks already this season, and now we've got like a proper period of just FPL, and there's something like 7 or 8 game weeks in December alone. So I'm looking forward to that. But Holly, just to reflect on the week that went by, and I've forgotten about this week. I can't even tell you. I'm going to have to look as we're recording. Are you on a green or a red arrow?
I was on a green arrow. It wasn't a massive green arrow, but it was a green arrow just outside the top 500k. But I'll take that, given a few weeks ago. Obviously, I had Salah and I captained him over Haaland again, which was a win. And I played Fabianski over David Raya, and I got a clean sheet and a 9-pointer. I think this Saturday, 3:00, I came out with 2 clean sheets from 4 players, and I was absolutely buzzing with that because clean sheets have been so hard to come by. So I'm quite happy with my little budget defence at the moment.
Oh man, I've just checked mine. Genuinely, I knew I was around par, and yeah, it's another small red for me. I'm at 2 million rank. Like I had Fabianski's 9 and Mikolenko's 6 on the bench, both of them. But it's fine because my defenders all picked up. Trent 1 point, Rico Lewis 0 points. So that's just absolutely brilliant. The last couple of weeks, my point scoring's actually been all right, and I would have been on really healthy greens if I had one man in my team or just captained the guy with points, i.e. Mo Salah. But because I've not owned Mo Salah, I've therefore clearly not been captaining him. So all my Haaland captaincies have been terrible, as we know. And then game week 11, just gone, I decided to go, no Haaland, I'm going to go Solanke. Thanks, Dom Solanke, with your 2 points. You did score a goal, it just went in off your hand. And Haaland actually outscored Solanke. And yeah, it was another really bad week because of captaincy, and it plays a massive part in the game. And in today's show, Holly, I want to talk a little bit about captaincy moving throughout the festive period, because I think captaincy, for me, I need to sort it out. Like, does it mean I need to move heaven and earth to get Salah because he's the best captaincy option most weeks? Maybe it does. Or can I try and keep going differential and try and get a big win? Like, I own players that can hurt you. My transfers in last week were Bruno Fernandes, 17 points, and Mateus Cunha, 12 points. Really happy with my moves. Yeah, really happy with them. But still, if you don't get captaincy right, it's still probably a red arrow. So anyway, vent over. You've been captain Salah, have you?
Yeah, so I brought him in game week 10, captained him 2 weeks in a row, and I think it was a 9 and then a 14. So
don't.
I mean, he's just incredible.
Oh, don't. So yeah, we'll have to focus later on. Like, do we all is he a must-have? Let's see. But guys, we want to talk also about Troll of the Week coming up. We've still got some data to show you guys. A bit of housekeeping first, though. We are available on all the podcast platforms. Give us a rate, give us a follow. And if you're listening or watching on YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe. You can also join our mini league. 139793 is the code. You can also message us at fplgreenroom@gmail.com. Holly, how's your international break been?
Yeah, it's been good. I had a busy week sorting out house stuff, Christmas stuff. I've mentioned the Christmas word, although did I see that you've been putting up your Christmas tree? This is something I've got to call you out on. While I've been making sure I've got all my Christmas shopping done, you, on the 17th of November, was putting your tree up and drinking mulled wine. So
yeah, this is not normal for me. Like, because I've been in Miami and It was obviously Miami's not Christmassy, right? It's not New
No.
York. It's hot. It's beachy. And obviously, I didn't expect to see many Christmas things because it is mid-November. But when I was
Yeah.
away, as always, when I'm away, I had a brilliant time, but also was like, oh, I really miss my girls, like missing Cam, missing Gaia. And I'm thinking, when I'm away, I'm thinking, oh, it's only 3 days and I'm home. And then, we look forward to Christmas. So I was sort of counting down the days. And one thing I was thinking when I was away was, I can't wait to set up the Christmas tree with Gaia, just knowing that this will be the first year she pretty much gets it. She's 2.5. So I got back on the Friday, and by the Sunday, I was like, let's set up the tree. I know it's the 17th of November, but let's just do it because it's all here. And Gaia was excited. So yeah, the mulled wine was out, Mariah Carey was on, and the Christmas tree is now fully up and running. So I'm in the festive spirits already.
Yeah, so are you just calling it a day at the Christmas tree, or are all the decorations up, the outside lights, the Christmas ornaments? Have you gone whole hog?
Yeah, the stockings are up. The outside lights, not yet. My dad's coming around next weekend to hopefully fit an outdoor plug. Although
Right.
he's not an electrician and never done one before, so that should be fun. He's a sort of DIY bloke that will just try anything. I just said, make sure you wear rubber soles, Dad. But yeah, I want to get the outside lights up. But the indoor lights are all on, the decorations, the stockings. Yeah, it's all there. All there. When will you wait till the first week of December then?
Yeah, so it's the weekend, isn't it? 30th of November is the Saturday, 1st of December the Sunday. So yeah, I've got that penciled in for Christmas. What about Miami then? Have you got any green room gossip for us from your trip to Miami?
Oh, so good. There's very few places I visit and go, I want to live here. Like I always think, oh, it's great for a holiday.
Yeah.
I think I could live in Miami. But yeah, no, it was really cool. I met quite a few people that play Serie A games, Serie A fantasy games, which is cool. There's quite a lot in Miami that are kind of Italian heritage or watch Serie A. But I also met loads of people that play FPL. There was one guy that came up to me and was like, I watch all your videos, and I was like, oh, no way. And then he showed me his rank, and I was like, oh, this is embarrassing. He's 27k in the world, and his wife was 2000th in the world. Number one in the Cayman Islands, his wife.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I know.
We need to live somewhere smaller so that we can dominate the league.
Shout out my compat if you're watching. But yeah, they're putting me to shame. There they are, following me on all platforms, watching all my videos, and just absolutely smashing me on rank. So that's quite embarrassing. But hopefully they have a good season, and I can claim part of their success. Maybe feels wrong.
Yeah, it's all variance, isn't it? You've got the right ideas, but you kind of get stuck with your team, and you're kind of within the confines of that, aren't you? Which doesn't make it very easy.
There's like variance charts. I think it's an FPL Review or one of the third-party websites do one. Someone I don't subscribe to any platforms, but I got sent a screen grab in the international break on WhatsApp of my variance chart, and yeah, I can actually claim I've been bloody unlucky this season. Bloody unlucky. But again, a lot of that is down to XG underperformance. And we talk about XG a lot in this pod, but when Haaland clocks a 2.5 XG and scores 1 goal and he's triple captain, that's unlucky. And I think we've seen a lot of my variance luck is down to actually Haaland captaincy in the last few weeks. Like Salah has been overperforming his XG and Haaland's been massively underperforming. Does that mean we've been making poor decisions? I'm not sure. It just means we've been maybe a little bit unlucky or lucky. But let's just start with Haaland versus Salah, Holly. What's your take there? Because I'm still a Haaland owner. The vast majority sold Haaland to get Salah, or some have both.
Yeah, I feel like if you own Haaland and not Salah, I think Salah does have the edge at the moment. Obviously, the ideal situation is owning both. I've got both, and I've got the opportunity to move away from Haaland and get another premium in my midfield. But you look at his form over the international break, and you look at his numbers. Like City have got to turn things around, but it's really difficult then looking at the fixtures, and it's Spurs, Liverpool, Forest in the next 3 game weeks to say, when is that going to happen? But surely if he's getting the service for Norway, he can be getting the service in this Man City team.
Yeah, De Bruyne is going to be back soon. Could even start versus Spurs. Also, Spurs on paper is a hard fixture, and Spurs always go to the Etihad and do well. But in terms of attack numbers for Haaland, playing Spurs defense is a good fixture. I'm up for that.
Spurs
Liverpool
defense
will be
isn't
tough,
great.
but and then Nottingham Forest, I think, is a home game in 3 weeks' time. So again, like I
Yeah.
don't mind that as a set of three. But against Brighton, the numbers were good, weren't they? Like 7 shots, 1.38 xg. Like he is getting the numbers, he's just not converting them.
Yeah, I think a lot of that XG was from the goal that he scored because obviously he had an attempt and it was the second attempt, wasn't it? And I
Yeah.
think that's contributed to the 3 big chances. But yeah, I don't. There's not like masses that I'm concerned about with Haaland. Like I looked at my team for this week and thought, is this the week to sell Haaland? Well, then you look at the festive schedule, and at the moment I've only got 2 free transfers. Like I want to be stacking those up. I want to have 3 free transfers, and City don't have a backup for Haaland, so
Mm.
you can be pretty sure that Haaland's just going to play all over Christmas, 90 minutes. You
Yeah.
can say the same for Salah, though. I think ideally both, but it's how much surgery you'd have to do to get both. Have you got a route to both?
Oh, yeah, but it requires hits and not just one. It requires two, like a -8. I do have a cash cow in Trent. I think my
Yes.
plan is to probably get to both, but not for a few weeks. Like I want to hold Haaland through Christmas. I want Salah, but I feel like I could go without Salah for a couple of weeks. Now it's far from optimal because Southampton away, clearly he's the best captaincy option this week. But I do own a Bruno Fernandes that feels very differential. Like when I bought Bruno last week, it was I'm buying Bruno. That probably means I can't buy Salah. Like, yes, there's a big difference in price, but I knew when I was buying Bruno that that was the spot in my midfield that I was able to convert Salah to. So now I've got Bruno. Clearly, I'm very happy with the next two. It's Ipswich, then it's Everton. But then he plays Arsenal, Forest, City, Bournemouth. That's a tough run of 4 games. Like, I'm thinking I have Ipswich and Everton, great. And then I convert Bruno to Salah in a couple of weeks. And by
Yeah.
that time, Salah's fixtures, sure, I've missed Southampton away, but I've also missed Man City at home. That's a good fixture to avoid Salah on. And then my entry point would be Newcastle away if I go in 14, or if I go in 15, Everton away. But it's Newcastle, Everton, Fulham, Spurs, Leicester, West Ham. Like, it's a great run over December for Salah. I want him in my
Yeah.
team. And I can convert Bruno to Salah with getting money out of Trent and getting money out of Dom Solanke.
Yeah, I think that's a nice route. But yeah, like you say, you're best off not doing it this week for a -8 because even with captaincy, that's not going to pay itself back, is it? And do it in a few weeks' time. And at least then you've kind of given Bruno Fernandes his time. He's had his audition, hasn't he, under the new manager? Because obviously another change at Manchester United. So yeah, I think that sounds wise. It just, I don't know. It's really difficult at the moment. Like Haaland v no Haaland. I think the momentum was no Haaland, but after seeing Haaland in the international break, it's kind of swung back in his favour again. It's really difficult to ignore him, even despite the fixtures, despite the form of Manchester City. Like his numbers are still so good. There's certainly that fear factor is still there. I think within the FPL community, we'll see his ownership drop, but overall, it's still going to be sky high after that electric start to the season.
Yeah, for sure. I think very few have got both. I have always said, have both and your team balance suffers. I think you're proving that theory wrong. And I look at my route to Salah and it's not to sell Haaland. It's, as I mentioned, the Bruno spot. So I think I'm going back on what I said earlier in the season, which is actually you should and could have both. Many will say no point in owning Haaland if you're not going to captain him because of his price point. Disagree. Like, just pick the players who will get the most points. And yes, value matters, but you will captain Haaland and that it will come back round. Salah's not going to be a perma captain for you. Even this week, sure, Salah against Southampton is great. But I think Haaland at home to Spurs is a perfectly legitimate captaincy option. And then also Cole Palmer plays Leicester. Bruno Fernandes plays Ipswich. Like, both away, Palmer and Bruno, but so Salah, don't forget. Obviously, we prefer it when our captains are at home. Like, if you weren't captaining Salah, Holly, i.e., help me out with my captaincy decision, where'd you go? Like, Palmer versus Leicester, Bruno versus Ipswich, or Haaland versus Spurs at home?
I think Haaland, like obviously the flag to Parma does put me off a bit, and I know it's probably one of those international break flags, but there's enough doubt there in terms of minutes. Like you said, Haaland against Spurs at home, I think that's a great fixture for him. Spurs do not keep clean sheets. Haaland is better at home than he is away. I think there's enough players potentially coming back for City to really beef up their attack. Like, they're in such a bad rut of form that we have to see a reaction. in a home game from City. So, the last 2 in the league that they've lost have been on the road. So it's now or never. And, when Haaland's got the bit between his teeth that, literally anything could happen. There's no kind of ceiling to his point scoring potential. So, yeah, I wouldn't look any further than Haaland. I think with Fernandes, it's just the away game kind of puts me off. But I know it doesn't seem to matter for him whether he's home or away. Didn't you say that he's maybe got a shorter international break than some?
Oh yeah, there's been I guess international break. There's been a bit of news, like a few big things that stand out to me is Bruno Fernandes picked up a yellow card for Portugal in game 1, which means he misses game 2. So
Right.
Bruno gets a nice little break in that game 1. By the way, Bruno scored. I think they scored 5 versus Poland. Portugal was that 5-0, 5-1. Pedro Neto also started on the right hand side and scored. And Pedro Neto, I've been bigging him up for weeks. Again against Arsenal in game week 11 was brilliant. Got the goal. He was actually in my draft team, Holly, that beat yours.
So we have to discuss that
in the head-to-head. So yeah, like definitely eyes on the fact that Bruno gets a nice little rest for sure. But with the new manager coming in, Ipswich at home are different teams. Ipswich away. I think I'm with you. I like back in the home guy. But Cole Palmer as well. Is he internationally break injured? There's a fair few players with flags on that we're not sure about. I include Saka in that category. Saka, Palmer, both flagged. But then we've got other players that are flat. Trent, we think Trent's probably out. It's a hamstring, but he could be available. So the press conferences on Friday are going to be really busy for you, Holly, your Friday YouTube stream, because there's so many players flagged. It's a really topical one this week. And then there's players that we know are injured. We've seen in the last couple of days, Ben White is going to be out for a couple of months, I think. So with that in mind, someone like Jurriën Timber at 5.5, many were looking at going bigger on Arsenal defence anyway. You've got now cheaper routes. So yeah, a bit of news already, but as always, the press conferences are going to be massive for a lot of those sort of international break injuries in quotation marks. I think Harry Kane spoke in the England camp, sort of making a reference to some of the players that were called up and didn't make it, sort of being like, you're called up for your country, you should be playing. As the captain, I think Kane felt obliged to say that. But clearly, a lot of players see international breaks and just swerve them.
Yeah, I think that culture's becoming more and more, isn't it? But the calendar's just so congested that you can understand why. I mean, I guess we need to talk about Brighton as well. That was a massive win for them in game week 11, wasn't it? Beating City. Eight big chances.
Yeah.
It makes me look at Rico Lewis in my team and I'm like, I mean, I guess the saving grace was that we didn't get another haul from Vardiol. But we had João Pedro come back, didn't we? He had 2 big chances on goal in 25 minutes. Estupiñán created 2 big chances as well. They're a team that we need to really consider. I guess they've not been on our radar as much because they didn't have the fixtures. But they did, you look at the table and they're right up there in 6th place, level on points with Chelsea, Arsenal and Forest. Or there's only goal difference that's keeping them from being higher.
Yeah, their fixtures were rotten, but that included games against Spurs and Newcastle. They beat Spurs and they beat Newcastle. They've just beaten Man City. So now the fixtures are good. We have to look at Brighton. Man City defence clearly is poor. Man City still created lots. We saw the Haaland numbers. We listened to the Haaland numbers earlier, but don't forget City also went to Sporting Lisbon in the week and got hammered. They are all over the place defensively. But Brighton, yeah. The fixtures now for Brighton, they are top of the ticker. All the way through till the end of December, it's a sea of green. It starts with Bournemouth, not maybe the best entry point in 12, but in 13, you get a great entry point. So 13 is Southampton at home. So it's Bournemouth away, Southampton at home, and then it's Fulham, Leicester Palace, West Ham, Brentford, Villa. It's great. And João Pedro is going to be flavour of the month. João Pedro coming off the bench and getting goals. We saw it earlier on in the season. He was a 90-minute man. He obviously got injured in game week, I think 4, but he played 81, 90, 90. So, okay, he was a guaranteed starter. But in that time, he's already had, 4 attacking returns. He's on penalties. He's 5.4 million. And the manager, Hersler, has been bigging him up, being like, he is our main point of reference. He's our main player. The thing that some might be put off by with João Pedro is, in his absence, Brighton have been winning all these games, and they've been playing Jorginho Rutter, who they spent a lot of money on Rutter from Leeds. I don't know if him and João Pedro play in the same team, because Welbeck will be the 9 and one of them is always the 10. Or you could see Jorginho out on the right-hand side and then João Pedro in the 10. So one to monitor. I genuinely think there's a good chance I take Dom Solanke down to a João Pedro. But I might not do it this week. I might give João Pedro a week or two to get back to sort of playing 90.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with Solanke, and I'm looking at João Pedro as a replacement. But again, I want to give it at least one more week. It feels like there's loads of forward options at the minute. Like, obviously, you need funds out of Solanke, but you can look up to the likes of Isak and Watkins, or you could look down to the likes of Visser, Kuna. Now we add João Pedro into the mix as well. Like, this is then comes back to the argument of if you do sell Haaland, there's plenty of places where you can go. But yeah, I really like João Pedro as well. Solanke, though, like when you actually break it down, like his numbers are still great. There's some nice fixtures still to target in there as well. I'm finding it really difficult to know where the jump off point is from him, because he still feels underpriced. Like 7.7 million. He's Spurs number 9. He plays 90 every week.
Yeah.
It's just you can't trust Spurs when they come off the back of a Europa League game. Like we saw it again losing to Ipswich. When they lost at Palace, that was after a Europa League midweek. Like you don't know what team you're going to get, do you?
That's Spursy. They are so Spursy. I'm like you. Like a couple of weeks ago, I thought he's probably staying in my team for a while because he just got me 16 points versus Aston Villa. But then he goes and blanks versus Ipswich, and you look, that 16-pointer versus Aston Villa has been carrying a lot of weight. He's got 43 points this season. 16 of them came in one fixture. There is a ton of blanks. He blanked versus Ipswich. He blanked versus Palace. He blanked versus West Ham. He blanked versus Arsenal and Newcastle and Everton. He didn't play against
nice
Newcastle.
Games in there, isn't there, as well?
Versus Leicester. He blanked versus. If you're not doing it against Ipswich and Leicester and Palace, do you think you will hold him then? Because you're right, the numbers are good. Spurs are the best attack in the league in terms of big chances created. They're top of the XG charts. They scored almost the same amount of goals as Man City.
I think I could. I'm going to keep him for the City game, and then he'll probably pop up with a goal in that game, and then I'll be like, right, it's a long-term hold.
See, if you keep him for City, he's then got Fulham at home. You're not going to want to sell him for Fulham at home, are you?
No. It's difficult, and then you look
Bournemouth
at that.
Away, his old club next.
Yeah, it's that cluster of games, isn't it? 13, 14, 15, where we've got weekend, midweek Premier League is the game week 14 round, and then weekend again. And you want players that are going to play every game and play 90 minutes. Solanke feels like that. He's not going to miss Fulham at home.
No,
and then he's not going to. And then he's got to play Bournemouth away. It's his old club. And then you're not going to then bench him because he's getting tired for Chelsea at home because he's the number 9. And Richarlison's out as well, isn't he?
Yeah. And even if Richarlison's back, he'll be out not long after. So, yeah, you can't bank on that. Solanke's is a bit of a fitness monster. Like, he's good for the 90s. And we have got to consider that. Like, what are our top tips, I guess, for the festive period, Holly? Like, when we're buying players like Bruno Fernandes and Salah and Dom Solanke, they matter more because they're 90-minute men and they're proven to be able to play twice a week. Like, these are players that will often play in Europe and then Premier League. And therefore, when there's just a midweek, there's 2 midweek rounds of fixtures in December. It's nothing crazy, but we know players like that can do that sort of 2-3 fixtures a week if they have to. Yeah,
and it's important to have players that are on penalties as well. It's good to have a good vice captain every week. The weather's turning chilly in the UK this week as well. You just never know, like, what chaos that can deliver on the schedule. So I think it's really important in this festive period to stay patient with good players, with good numbers. I think the fixtures don't carry as much weight because even the teams that you think, yeah, you're not going to get anything from that fixture, the build-up of fixtures mean that literally anything can happen in terms of performances. So you want to back the best horses regardless of race distance.
Well, speaking of backing horses, Isak hasn't had a huge backing. And
No.
he's doing it. He's absolutely doing it. And Newcastle, I mean, I like the fact Newcastle haven't been involved in Europe. So when they hit the weekend, they are fresh and they could and should be fresh for the December. Again, some teams are already starting to look leggy. I don't feel like I see that with Newcastle. Like, that was a good win against Nottingham Forest at the City Ground. They've just beaten Arsenal as well. That's now 2 good back-to-back wins. And then they've got West Ham at home. Like, that's a great entry point. They also, over the festive period, play Leicester and Ipswich in 16 and 17.
That's really tempting, isn't it? I mean, they had 17 shots against Forest. That, like,
Sorry.
I thought that was Forest's game to win.
That's
Like,
a
I
good
was
defence,
expecting
Forest.
a 1-0,
Mm.
even a 2-0, because Newcastle, even though they had that win against Arsenal on the road, they've not been great. Or I think it was when Isak was out was when we saw a dip in their form, and now Isak's back and he's got goals in 3 consecutive games. Like,
Yeah.
I think he 50% owned or something silly at the start of the season.
Yeah,
Until he
I
got that
started the
injury.
season. I had him at the start of the season. I think he was around 50. He was one. It was him, and he was one of the game's highest owned players for sure. So top 3, top 4.
And all those reasons why we thought it was a good buy at the start of the season, they all still apply. Like, Callum Wilson is still not in the picture. He had 2 big chances against Forest, 3 shots in the box. He's got penalties. And again, he came back from injury and he's played 90. And you look at the fixtures they've got coming up, the home games in particular, they've got the West Ham at home, the Leicester at home. Like, they're really, really nice games. So the annoying thing for me is that I can't get directly from Solanke to Isak, else that would have been a big consideration for me this week.
I can if I sell Haaland, and as can you. I mean, he is. People will say about his fitness, like, sure, Isak does pick up some injuries, but he's only missed 2 games through injury this season. In all the others, bar one, he's played 90. He doesn't ever come off. Like, he's had a 45, a load of 90s and 2 zeros. So yeah, there might be the occasional game he misses through injury. That's fine. You have a good first sub and you take that on the chin. But the fixtures you really want him for are Leicester and Ipswich in 16 and 17. There's no midweek between those games. The midweek's way earlier than that. So that's a Saturday, Ipswich, Leicester. And then it's a Thursday after that. You're good. The fixtures are fine. This year, remember, the congestion over Christmas and Boxing Day isn't as tight as it has been in years gone by. I think there's 1 fewer Premier League rounds. So, like, the congestion just isn't really there. Like, Newcastle on the 7th play 7th of December. So it's Saturday, all the way up to Christmas. And then there's
they do have League Cup quarterfinals, though. That's the only thing. So that comes between 16 and 17. So
who's it against?
Brentford at home. So there's Arsenal have got Palace, Newcastle have got Brentford, Southampton face Liverpool, and Spurs face Man United. So there is an extra schedule fixture in there. It's not a big deal for them though. But you look at the likes of Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, and United, who have got busy schedules, to then add another midweek in there. Like, it's good for the teams that are out, like Man City and Haaland.
Yeah, they get a little rest. I mean, some teams like Liverpool, you go, it matters less to them and they rotate. But for a team like Isak and Newcastle, that trophy will matter. They've actually got a chance.
Absolutely.
With Man City out, they've got a real chance of winning it, you know? Yeah, that's interesting. Good shout there, Holly. Other big headlines. Let's just talk a little bit about Man United. I think we have to with a new manager. We don't quite know how they're going to set up. It should be 3-4-3. That's what he always plays. But he might look at the personnel and go, this is more suited to a slightly different structure. Regardless, Fernandes is going to be the key cog. If you're going to buy a Man United player, get Bruno. Like, do we agree? Like, I think game week 11 showed us he's just, 7 key passes, gets the goals, assists, 90 minutes, pens, the lot. He's so worth the extra funds on a Garnacho, Rashford, and Ahmad, Højlund.
Yeah, I just look at my team and I think I haven't got a way to fit him in. And this is the compromise with having Haaland, Salah, and Palmer. Yeah. You've not got that kind of mid-price midfield slot. It's like it's in Burmo at the minute, but Fernandes, you're quite a jump there.
There's not
So
much between the price now, though, because Burmo's had so many rises. There's only like
yeah,
0.5 between them.
yeah, it's that value. It's the value you've got locked in Burmo though,
True.
which carries you. Like I bought him at 7.1. He's now 7.9. So my
Wow.
sell price is 7.5, and yeah, that's
I'm
too
the
much
same.
at the moment.
Yeah, I'm exactly the
Yeah.
same. I'm just checking. If you want to know how to check your buy and sell prices, guys, on your transfers page on the site, instead of pitch view, there's list view, and then it shows your purchase price, selling price, cost price. And yeah, in Burmo, it's gone up. Wow. Yeah, that's my biggest moneymaker in Burmo.
Yeah, I think it must be everyone's. But yeah, I've not got that slot. Like I could go for a little punt on Ahmad. Like he had 4 shots in the last game. But yeah, we need to see the formation. I could be tempted by a defender playing the wing back role if that comes to fruition. We just need a little bit of time to evaluate. But when you give it that time, you're then losing the fixtures. I think for Fernandez, it doesn't matter because at his very best, he could get a goal involvement every game.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see him back in that form. Like, I just think back to that, his first full season at United, the 2020-21 season. He had 32 goal involvements. I think he was the highest scoring player that season.
Wow.
And I think I had him for the entire season.
A lot of pens, though, wasn't it? He was dubbed Penandez for a reason. They were seeing fewer pens in the league this year. But yeah, you're right. He was amazing. I remember FPL were giving him all sorts of points. Even though I do remember, was there the ghost assist? Was like, did it touch his boot? Did it not? And he still got it.
It was a penalty after full time at Brighton one time.
Oh yeah, I remember that so well. Okay, so Holly, where are our big decisions this week for both of us? Captaincy, transfers, where's your head at?
I think for me, I just need the injury information to allow me to roll this week. I do kind of want to get another transfer banked going into, the fixtures that we've got coming up. And I'm not convinced enough that it's right to sell Haaland or it's right to sell Solanke. And then I look at the likes of Palmer and Burmo, who are my flagged players. And, unless they were going to be out for a few weeks, they're long-term holds in my side. So it is a roll. And then I look at captaincy, Salah against Southampton away, like such an easy decision to give him the armband. I think Ramsdale's a bit of a doubt for that game as well, which just makes it even more convincing that, Salah is the one to go for if you own him. He's had the international break off.
Yeah, I know. That is scary.
The only decision I feel like I've got to make is whether I play Rico Lewis or not, but I've got Solanke, so I don't want to play them both. And I've got Nori, who can always get an attacking return. Konza plays Crystal Palace at home, great fixture. Vandenberg's got Everton away, and Everton are struggling for goals. So even though Brentford struggle to keep clean sheets, I think I am going to bench Rico Lewis.
Yeah, I'd be happy benching Rico Lewis. I think I've got to start him unless I buy a defender. I do have Trent. I need to figure out what I'm doing with Trent.
He's got to go, surely.
I don't know.
Get the cash.
I don't know.
Even if you don't use it this week.
Yeah, I just would love Trent over the festive period, but he hasn't been. I've got to remember he hasn't been the same Trent.
No, exactly. And if he's had an injury as well,
True.
There's no guarantees that he's going to come in and continue to play 90. They've got a very good deputy.
They do. Bradley and look, even if he doesn't, he's not going to play against Southampton 12. You're like, oh, he might make 13. Well, 13 he plays Man City, and then 14 he plays Newcastle. I think Trent has to go. I just need to figure out how much I've got. My plan was, before I looked at forward planning, it was I'm going to sell Trent and I'm going to buy Jurian Timber because I want double Arsenal defence. It's a good entry point, Forest at home, and I know Arsenal are going to keep loads of clean sheets. They're just gonna. And with Ben White's injury, Timber's a good shout. Then looking at converting Bruno to Salah and getting money out of Trent and money out of Solanke in a few weeks' time, that only gives me something like 4.7 to spend on a defender. So I can't go and buy an Timber. It mucks up the whole plan later down the line. So I might.
Have you got Gabriel as well?
I've got Gabriel already in place.
You don't need to double up.
Just like the idea of having two Arsenal defence. Yeah.
So you're going to buy Vandenberg then, and just to release loads of money.
I'm definitely not.
Because remember, prices can change.
Yeah, I can't buy Vandenberg. I just can't. I think if I was on wildcard, he'd be in my squad as he was in yours. But I need someone to come in and play and ideally get some clean sheets. And I just don't feel like Vandenberg's that player. But Eight Nori might be, but then it feels a bit templatey. But Eight Nori is brilliant and got the fixtures. But Also, Lewis Hall, 4.3 in Newcastle. I mean, if we think of when Eddie
going
Howe
back
took
for
over,
more.
yeah, I know. It's 4.4 now. He's just had a price rise. I've just seen it. But when we think of Eddie Howe when he first went in at Newcastle, like he was known for the clean sheets, right? He's just kept a clean sheet against Arsenal, conceded one to Forest, but like I quite like Eddie Howe defenses over time. So there are good cheap defenses out there. You know, you could look at Chelsea's fixtures, although I never back them for a clean sheet. But against Arsenal, they look good for long periods. Brighton, you could look at the Brighton fixtures. Like Aït-Nouri would be my pick, but I think I might be 0.1 or 0.1-ish short with my future planning if Salah was to have price rises.
And I can't see Salah's price staying stagnant.
Exactly.
So I feel like, I mean, I think you would regret not buying Aït-Nouri, but if it's going to cost you extra transfers down the line.
That's the thing. I've got to look at that slot and go, in 3 weeks' time, how much will I have? And this is if I go, say, I'm just assuming I'm going to buy João Pedro for Solanke, which I'm just doing it now as we speak. So yeah, it gives me a grand total on a defender if I sell Trent of 4.8, but that's in 3 weeks' time, remember. Now,
yeah, and if something happens to João Pedro, which could do, because he's been in and out.
Yeah. Yeah,
or he doesn't get his place, then you might be looking at Acuna or a Vissa, and they're more expensive than João Pedro.
Yeah, or even with Delap is 5.6. He's the next best thing in that category, and he's 0.2 more. So again, like I think I've just got to shop for a proper cheapo. Who I could even bench this week and play Rico Lewis. Like that is an option. Captaincy is a big one for me, Holly, and goalkeepers. Just briefly,
Right.
Fabianski and Sells neither have a good fixture this week. I think I'll go Fabianski. He's got Newcastle away. Sells has got Arsenal away. Would you?
Well, yeah, I think I would. How is he doing in terms of like saves?
Sells has been brilliant, but
yeah,
Arsenal at home
this season.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he gets a good. Yeah, maybe. I do like Forest, and then captaincy. It's either Cole Palmer or Haaland. I don't think I'll be going Bruno, but something tells me Cole Palmer to Leicester could be a big one.
Yeah, you're not going to the game, are you?
I'm not going to the game, which I think is a good thing.
That could have swung it.
No, I think it's a good thing.
It's the early kickoff.
Oh, is it the early kickoff? I don't look at things like that. That's rubbish. That is a load of rubbish. Honestly, the early kick, I can't. Like a player is influenced by. I mean, maybe the output does change for a variety of things, but I can't.
Are we on Sky together this week, or are you not on this week?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You don't sound very convinced that you're going.
I am on this week.
Oh.
Wait, are you in the studio?
Yeah.
I need to double check that. Why did I think the next time I was seeing you was the 14th of December?
Well, it's too long. I can't go that long without seeing you.
Well, we're together by the looks of it. I need to double check my diary. I'm pretty sure I'm on Sky this week, although my head's all over the place. We'll take this conversation offline, shall we?
Yeah, it's one of them that could go right down to the wire. You'll be like, oh, I need to check team news. But you could get a leak, you see.
Yes.
Palmer starts if there was any niggling doubts. It's just then his minutes. But I feel like he only ever comes off when they're like very comfortable. Like he came off against West Ham in the 3-0, and he came off against Wolves in the 6-2.
With no football in the international break, Maresco wants some minutes in his legs, I reckon, and because he was injured the game before the 11 as well, before Arsenal. Yeah. Holly, we haven't spoke. We've run out of time, but we've got a couple of minutes to do parenting hack of the week, so you've got to hit us with that.
Yeah, it's my turn this week, isn't it? On the Royal
Tesco hack a few weeks ago is going to take a lot of competing with.
Yeah, well, Royal Mail at Christmas you can send your letter to Santa, and you get a letter back from Santa.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, so we did our letters to Santa on Saturday, and Billy's 3.5, and she's just learnt to write her own name, and she's proper proud of herself. So I was like, because obviously Bobby had nailed it with doing all her sentences to Santa I'd like this year, and she did it for them both last year. But I was like, I need to get Billy to do hers. So I did. So she managed to write Santa at the top. and write a name at the bottom, and then we cut out what she wanted in the catalogue and stuck it on. It was proper cute. And she was so proud of herself. And then there's a post office near us that had a special post box just for Santa letters to the North Pole. So we went to that post office to post on letters. So they loved that activity. Cute. But yeah, I think you have to like post them. I think they started accepting them maybe last week. And I'm losing a headphone. You've got to get them there like by the first week of December to have hope of getting a letter back. But the letters back aren't personalised.
I should hope not.
But everyone gets a letter back. But yeah, obviously you had to pay for your stamp.
Yeah.
To send them. But then you don't like have to send like a stamped address envelope to get one back. They just send you one back.
Oh, that's
which
nice.
Is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I showed my husband the picture and he's like, "What? You sent two stamps?" And I think he thought that it wasn't a real thing. I was like, "Yeah, you get a letter back."
Oh, it's so good. Have they always done that? Is that new?
No, I think it's probably been going on a while, but when you've not got kids, it's not on your radar, is it?
Yeah, or a 1 or 2 year old. Like I think next year for Guy at 3.5, like she'll just be at the point where, as you say, she can write Santa on the envelope.
Like, does she know what she wants for Christmas yet, or is that like a bit of a weird concept to her?
Doesn't get it. Yeah. No, not yet. I don't think. I should probably ask her. I don't think.
Although
so.
It's good to lock it in. And then, like, you can have that like conversation then for the next 5 weeks of, Santa's coming and he's going to bring you your whatever she wants.
Yeah, that'll be cute. Yeah. Okay. Done.
Because then she'll probably be buzzing for it on Christmas Day because it's like, oh, today's the day that I get my whatever she's asked for.
Yeah, 5 weeks in the making. And bless her, she'll have such a long lead up with my tree going up on the 17th of November. She's going to be ready. She's going to be very ready for a single present. There we go, guys. That's been loads of fun. Do check us out on socials. Holly will be doing the press conference stream on Friday, which will definitely be worth seeing because there are going to be so much injury news. I'll be doing my team selection probably on the same day, maybe Thursday, if I can figure out what I'm doing with my team. I don't like to do team selection videos until I'm pretty much there, so I'll be going with a no Salah or Salah narrative, depending on what I'm doing. And for now, guys, on the way out, hit all those buttons, rate and follow and like and subscribe, and we'll see you for another pod very, very soon.